The greatest adventure is what lies ahead. Today and tomorrow are yet to be said.
Like I said countless times before in other reviews for big tentpole sequels or prequels, if you're not caught up at this point in the Hobbit trilogy, you know the drill. We pick up almost immediately after the last film's frustrating cliffhanger with the fearsome dragon Smaug, played by the second man I'd wish could narrate my life story, Benedict Cumberbatch, descending from his golden lair to rain hellfire upon the citizens of Lake Town, where he crosses paths with Bard the Bowman, played by Luke Evans. Meanwhile, Bilbo, played by Martin Freeman, has at long last helped his dwarf allies reclaim their homeland, but face even more impossible odds when multiple armies of men, elves, orcs, mordwarves, and a large assortment of gigantic mythical creatures prepare to duke it out in their world's most massive free-for-all that takes up 2/3 of the film's surprisingly brisk 2.5-hour runtime. And as awesome as that all sounds, it could feel a little overbloated at times. One example being the subplot involving Ian McKellen's Gandalf and the precursor to what will eventually become the main villain of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. This backstory had been building up since An Unexpected Journey, and after seeing it all play out, it was kind of unnecessary to the overall story, which should have focused more on Bilbo since, you know, this trilogy was basically named after him. However, these movies were never really about Bilbo to begin with. Nah, that mantle had somewhat been passed on towards Thorin, leader of the dwarves, and played by Richard Armitage, who's not a bad character per se. It's just kinda disappointing to see a character as brave and kind-hearted as Bilbo get sidelined by so many characters and subplots. But to be fair, Bilbo is given more to do here than the past two movies, where he has to deal with the fact that his friend Thorin has gotten the bad case of gold fever and is slowly but surely losing sight of who he was at the start of this journey. There's also some very forced comic relief provided by this Weasley character named Alfred that really wasn't needed, and the love triangle scene from the last film between Orlando Bloom's Legolas, that chick from Lost, and the only hot-looking dwarf doesn't help much either. But despite the number of shortcomings this movie had, I still thought that the things I didn't like about it were completely overshadowed by the things I did. I still love these characters, I love how high the stakes were raised this time around, and I especially loved how well they managed to incorporate genuine heartfelt emotion in the middle of all this chaos, the best example being the opening 5 minutes with Bard facing off against Smaug. True, it would have made more sense to end the second movie with this sequence, but due to its brief calming moment between Bard and his son, it perfectly set up the emotional tone for the remainder of the film. And as much as I harped on over the unneeded subplot with Gandalf and Sauron, at least it gave us a pretty badass fight scene featuring Christopher Lee, Cate Blanchett, and Hugo Weaving. As you could probably tell, I came away from this movie more or less completely satisfied. Would it have been better had it remained a two-parter as originally planned? Probably. Hell, even a 3.5-hour standalone film would have sufficed. But as is, I thought this was easily the best of the three prequels that didn't waste time jumping headfirst into the action, while at the same time summarizing its themes of loyalty and friendship in a climactic finish that's bound to leave some viewers a little misty-eyed. So on a scale from 1 to 10, I'm actually going to give 2 ratings, an 8.5 for the Battle of the Five Armies, and a solid 8 for the overall Hobbit trilogy. It may not be up to par with The Lord of the Rings, but it was most certainly an absolute privilege taking one last journey through there and back again. With that said, our show is now concluded. I'm the host, and I will see you next time on another Midnight Movie Madness.